Tallahassee Authors Network meeting. Today we're going to be talking about, Cynthia and I will be discussing writing noticeable press releases. Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. I don't know if any of y'all were able to flip these over, but if you have not flipped over, please flip it over. You will see a blank piece of paper, put that to the side, and you're going to see some handouts. Put everything except for the last 2 pages aside, because this is kind of what you want to see, and this is not for bragging rights, by the way. This is just to show after you have released your book, and this is the kind of publicity that you want after your book is released, so that way you want people, you want your name to be a household name. You know, when you write something, you want to take pride in what you do, you want your local community to know about it, and this is what we're going to discuss. So in order to get to the exposure, the having news reporters do a press on you without you having to write it, we have to go back to the beginning as to how do you get noticed. And I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime, Cynthia, as we discuss how do you write a noticeable press release.
I have over 20 years of public relations experience with the federal government, but the federal government writing is boring. And so when I was asked to talk about constructing or crafting a press release, I really had to go back and relearn and go back to my journalism days prior to joining PR. And what is the purpose of writing a press release, and are they even relevant in this day and age with the internet and all the different social media outlets out there? And I found to my surprise that yes, press releases are still very much relevant and very useful in helping to get the word out to promote whatever it is you want to promote, whether it be a book or your business or an event, a nonprofit, anything that you want to get out there. In my days working in at the Capitol News Bureau in Louisiana, my first job was to take press releases that we received, such as these, and very few actually made it in the paper. Most of them went into file 13, which is the wastebasket. And if it didn't have anything to do with how important your event was, it was how much space is there in the actual newspaper. And we really would chop half of the story, if you were lucky, only half of your story. Now, you can put anything you want online. A lot of newspapers and magazines are switching to online format, or they have both, and so that you can add more. But the principles of a well-crafted news release have not changed. Why should you send out a press release? Why? Anybody have any suggestions?
Interest, to generate interest.
Yes.
Why would you want to do it?
Generate interest. I want people to know about the product.
And who would you send it to?
Newspaper, television stations, radio station.
The production people at those places, right? The directors and all of that.
Let me pose a question. Why do you think many people shy away from doing press releases?
Because they don't think they're going to be published. Like she said, they're going to go to file 13.
Also, just my opinion, that sometimes we don't think about the idea of controlling the message. We're not proactive along those lines. You want to have your story put out, your opinions put out, as opposed to just let it happen. So you want to say something good about what you're doing, and you have to take charge of that message before somebody else does.
Absolutely.
I think that we really don't understand press releases. Most of us are used to going to straight to, they used to go straight to the newspaper with a concept or an idea and put it out there that way. But we don't understand the process of how stuff gets put in the paper. You do have to go to the some of the publishers or whoever they are, the directors, or some of those key people who make those decisions, and you have to impress them. But you have to say, we don't understand the process, so we just skip that piece. We just go straight to them and think we're going to get what we want by just going to call, give them a phone call or something from my office, say this is what I want to do, and it doesn't happen like that.
I think one of the major reasons is that most people think that while press releases may be event-driven, they are really brand establishers. motivator. So people who continuously do press releases, even though you may not hear about them, they are establishing a brand or something.
So when you look at a story, headline sells. You want to keep it active. Take out the thes and the ahs and all those little words that you don't need. Keep it as active as possible. And that hasn't changed since I was in college 20-something years ago. You want to make it inviting. They say make it irresistible. So you want to draw your reader in. People are used to scanning and skimming over information. Websites are full of graphics, so you're competing with all of this. You don't know if your press release is going to be in a publication, hard copy, or if it's going to be online, or if it's going to be referenced in a blog. So that headline is key. That has to pull them in. So stick to active verbs and action words. And you're telling your story in the headline, but you're leaving a little bit out to entice them in to read more. The second item that they have, and I'm not going to go through all of these, I'm only going to cover what's in the first handout, because I think it pretty much says it all. Don't play hard to get. You don't want your readers to have to read the whole thing to find out what the point of your story is. If you're promoting your book, you just released a new book, say it. Author so-and-so just released, you can pull them in with a catchy first sentence. If it's a feature story, you get more creativity, but don't make them read half of the story before they even find out the title of the book.
Same holds true when you write
Because you
books.
might not even get that. You just might get 2 sentences. So then you've lost them. You can write more background information toward the end of the story. Number 3, offer a tempting quotable. This is your chance to say what you believe, or what is your main point about it, or what someone else said about you. Let someone else celebrate you. If you received an award, if your book is award-winning, put that in there and have someone quote that. When you're crafting a press release, you're speaking in third person. In the quotes, you can use I, because you're quoting if someone else said something. Number 4, provide valuable background information. You want to keep your news release to 1 page, and that can be hard because we're writers and we like to write. But keep it to 1 page if you want to be noticed at all. If it's online, 250 words max on a page, maybe less than that, because most people, they just skim and they may or may not click. Something to keep in mind is to add a website or a link to your Facebook page, or a link to somewhere that a person could find out more information about you, the type of literature that you write, the events that you're involved in, because people will save that and use that for future reference. Okay. Number 5, it states serve as an easy reference. And again, that's where you'll provide your website, if you own a business, anything else that might be interesting to the reader. Your second handout has additional information on the bones of writing an effective press release. And we're going to skip over to the second page, top of the second page. You'll have to excuse, my copier copies things flip-sided. So the second page, that is normal. And it's part of the format for your press release. We talked about headlines already, and subhead is optional. I find that really busies your news release too much. If you can stay away from having a subhead, that's like writing a thesis and you have a 20-word title. Just keep your headline. The editor will add a subhead, or they'll pull out an interesting piece if they have space for it and if they have the time to do it. You always want to have a dateline, the city where you are releasing this, and the date of the release. And the first handout actually has an example of a press release, and you'll see the dateline in your first paragraph, at the beginning of the first paragraph. It has a city, the date, well, they didn't put the date in that one. But usually you're gonna also have for immediate release at the top. And every news release I've seen, it doesn't matter who I work for, they all have the same format. For immediate release at the top, of date, and they'll have a contact person with a phone number and email for additional information. This is key for reporters because they'll have further questions that they want to ask, and so you don't want to give them any reason not to print your piece. Your lead or introductory paragraph, this is where you want to say who, what, where, when, and you're going to pull them in. Why? You know, think about your audience and who you're trying to reach. What would they want to know? Why would this book be important to them? Like she said, if it's tied into a community event, well, everyone already is thinking on that. So how would your book tie in or fit in? And Tremayne can give us an example when of before and after and how his press releases helped him publicize his event and it tied into what was going on that month. So in your lead paragraph, that is your chance to pull your readers in. So you want to tell them what your book is about, why the reader would even want to read it, and who you are. So, and the body is going to support that. You're going to provide more details. Here's where you get to add a quote or talk about any awards you've received or what you hope to achieve. And then you're going to end it with some background information about you as an author. How long have you been writing, your genre, what's your website, and anything coming up for the future. And now we will have Mr. Moore give us an example of a successful use of a press release.
If you were to look at this one, this is a good example of what Cynthia talked about as far as having the for lead release and the main heading where it says domestic violence is everywhere, and really just focus on the lead or introductory paragraph that talks about the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. And I want to throw this out as a question. As you're reading this first paragraph, what would you say are the positives and even the negatives within the first paragraph of this particular press release? Or what would you do different?
And the headline is domestic violence is everywhere, even in the church.
Just go ahead and throw your thoughts out.
There are no
Well,
wrong answers.
it's making a statement, but it's not telling about, correct me if I'm wrong, an event, or it's not, it's too general, for one thing.
Okay. You're right. You're right.
Okay, was it tied to an event?
Yes, it was tied to the release party from last year. And just a little FYI, this did not go in the paper. This was just written up.
So we're going to give you a few moments to digest some of this information because it is a lot, and I went over it briefly. But just keep in mind that we're among friends and family, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to try to put together at least the first lead paragraph of your press release.
The blank piece of paper that that was on top is for you to write it.
What I want you to focus on is your project that you're currently working on now. Whether it's completed or not, doesn't matter. What you're focused on now. And pretend that, well, you have two choices. It can be you're releasing this, it's coming out in print, or you're going to be speaking about it at an event. And you can make up an event or you can tie it into a current event that's happening, that's going to happen. I would like for you to take a few minutes to think about what it is you want to say in your press release, and then craft a lead paragraph and a headline for it. And a headline is an attention-grabbing phrase, not just the title of your book.
Like this headline right here?
Yes, so that's why we provided examples of news releases to give you an idea. And then just the first paragraph, who, what, where, when, why is answered. You don't have to answer all of it, but you want the reader to be able to know what it is you're promoting. So what are you doing? You're writing a book. When is it coming out? What is it about? And you can make up a community event. You know, Child Abuse Awareness Month, or this is Poetry Month, or whatever the
This is
theme of
romance.
your book is. You can tie it into an event if that makes it easier, because you're going to want to use this, or some version of it. Now, we'll work on it for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion.
My heading is the ANSA Reunion. It stands for Anguilla Nevis and St. Kitts Association Reunion. Come out and share in Leeds Caribbean Reunion 2014, England. Come here and see culture explode. An opportunity to reunite with nationals we have not seen for many years, to include over 40 years when we all relocated to the Americas, Canada, and England. Our own national Avis Veronica Simmons will entertain us with her gift of poetry writing. Come hear her poem, The Joy of Togetherness.
The collaborative.
Okay, great.
Well, I've got to say thanks because I've been thinking all week that I needed to do this and just didn't get around to it.
Wow.
This is an opportunity. Okay, my headline is Lorena Osmond does it again and she's not telling.
Very catchy. I like
Okay.
it.
Lorena Osmond has always been fascinated by the two sides of every story. He said, she said. Her fourth novel, Don't Tell, explores the world of love, romance, and rejection from two sides of an American coin, Mia Rossi and Jamie Daly. Written from both a male and female perspective, Don't Tell represents Osmond's deeper evolution in her work as a novelist who uncovers hard truths and shows a much underappreciated and not much noticed aspect of African American love and life. Quote, I wanted to answer the question of what he's thinking, Osmond said, referring to her decision to give voice to the male character. Jamie needed to get heard. He was whipped and he wanted to say it in his own words.
That's ready to go.
It is.
Can you make that, can you email that as a template?
That would be great.
I think you guys know how to reach me, but if you need some help, I'll do it. Because I'm independently employed.
We get it, yes.
Any other
Lorena, what did you write?
I started with, my heading was Valentine's Day gift, don't tell. And then I put Lorena Osborne's fourth romance novel, Don't Tell, is not only spicy, but this time the main male character gives his version of events. This is new for the author. And like he said, you could collaborate, I just...
Then you said
Don't reinvent the wheel. So my heading is Respect the Unseen Because They See You. Tallahassee, Florida, August 1st, 2014. Melinda Michelle releases the third book in her heart-pounding series, The Chronicles of Warfare. Temptation Tuesday is set in Tallahassee as ground zero for the battle between good and evil over the state of Florida. This latest installment takes the reader on a mysterious trip to the city, to the Crescent City.
Try to stay away from words like because, and just stick with, make it short and active. But I thought it was good
Okay.
in the headline.
That's hard to write the third book.
That's why it's a writing activity.
Any other volunteers?
Author shares words that heal with local women leaders.
Too long. No, just kidding. That was long, and you
It was very
broke it
long.
up. But say it again, and all in one breath.
I started to just say author shares words that heal.
Yeah, stop there, stop there.
Yeah.
And that was what I initially had, and
I
I
thought
just
that
stuck
was-
with it.
Yeah.
And then when you
Author
added something else, you
shares-
threw me off, because I had grasped that, then when you added other
Author
part, I was
shares
like,
words
what?
that heal, because that's the theme of the event. Author Cynthia Lamb will speak to 100 women in Lavender on June 8th about overcoming emotional trauma through faith and written affirmations. This local author of, quote, Bloom Forever, unquote, a poetry journal spanning 25 years of her life, faith, and love, will share poems from her book as part of a group study project designed to help women of all ages move forward with greater expectancy after suffering a major life setback. The event begins at 12 actually. The event begins at noon and will feature several community leaders as speakers. That's all I wrote. Now, the date is, it's a real event, but the date is yet to be determined.
But you put a date in there.
Okay, I might actually, well, I think there's a debate you can do. I mean, it's fine, but you could flip it because names are so important, and a lot of times if people don't know the name, you know, TDJs, they'll jump to, but your name, but the stuff that you're talking about is big. Might be even bigger than you, and you know, love and affirmations. You know, if you I mean, it's you can play around with it. You know,
I like that.
Yeah, the whole motion of love it because you know your audience.
Nobody knows me.
Your audience is big into love and affirmation.
Yes.
It's an important topic, and so if you can keep it active and flip it.
Okay, that's a good observation. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because see, and this goes to show you can have years of experience doing something and get stuck in a certain way of doing it. And I had to write for politicians a lot, and their names had to be out there. And so I automatically went into that mode. But you're so right, because when I wrote about farmers and people didn't know who farmers were, then I flipped it, just like you said, and I wrote about the problem that they were trying to solve or that the agency program helped them. And then I put their name in there. So that's really good. Thank you.
Heading, romance doesn't come with a money-back guarantee.
I like it.
Okay, the romance arm of the Tallahassee Authors Network has published a collection of Valentine's Day love stories that lift the spirit and at times bruise the soul. The book is titled Raggedy Love and is scheduled for release on February 14th. The incredibly debonair and tuxedo spokesperson for the group, Xavier D. Woods, proclaimed, "We have touched on all aspects of the love genre." When asked what his contribution to the collection was, Mr. Woods chuckled and stated, my contribution to the book deals with intimacy and avoiding getting slapped on first dates. The book was crafted as a tool for raising funds for the Tallahassee Authors Network annual Valentine's Day and Victoria's Secret costume. Proceeds to be donated to the Help a Brother Find a Wife a foundation founded by Mr. Woods. Thank you.
The only feedback I would offer is when you're describing yourself before your quote, don't have so many adjectives.
That was tongue. It's meant to be.
I
Okay.
know why you did it.
I just take that. I say the spokesperson.
And I would want to read the book too.
Probably want to meet him more than you want to read it.
Any other volunteers?
Nobody wants to go after that.
How is your intimacy, if any, with God? Okay. Avera Publishing releases Romancing God, Catching Up. A believer unveils his love affair relationship with the Almighty God by Edwin McMillan. His book chronicles the pain, the joy, the struggles, even the thrills and excitement associated with being so deeply involved in such an extraordinary supernatural being. The book is scheduled for release November 12, 2014.
You need that if any.
I don't, not necessarily, yeah.
Does the if any add anything? Is that adding anything?
I mean, it does, because if you don't, it's like a little convicting, but
Right.
He's
not
asking
for,
the question, how is your
I think you
intimacy
can take it
with
out
God?
in the question.
Yeah, but I can take that part out for sure. If any can go,
I think it'll still work with how
Yeah, I
it's
think it'll
intimacy
work
with
better and
God.
smoother.
Yeah.
I think it'll flow smoother without that if.
Yeah.
That-
How is your intimacy with God?
Yes, there we go.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. You
There, I just struck it out.
That's all you gotta say. How is your- It's like asking my, how's your love life?
Yeah.
I don't say if any.
That man have none.
I'm trying to learn this, and it's just,
I've been editing and going on as you talk, trying to fix as you say things, but I'm not getting any better with it, so. First of all, I didn't, but let me go. First of all, when we were asking for, I didn't even have a headline, the title for it. I mean, I couldn't come up with a title for what I said. And so, I finally did come up with one. Sexy isn't a size.
A size.
All right, well, I want to read.
Okay, when Monique Bowden was looking for literature, the spice of her marriage, she noticed that that she was not able to find anything with stories that reflected what she looked like. After spending hours searching through various sources, she decided to just write the stories herself. This birthed Big Booty Judy, a collection of short stories that find the main character in several interesting situations that place her as a love interest, while reminding the audience that she is not a 6-foot blonde with sparkling baby blues nestled in a Florida tan. Judy has curves and she's proud of them. She attracts men that love the way she looks and has a strong desire to navigate those curves. And then you just said that sounds like you're telling your story.
That's the body, that's down, some of that in your quotes, some of that, but that's not the.
And so I'm fixing stuff.
The thing is about you, the author.
That I'm listening to, and the images that you're creating are really fascinating. And I gotta watch my words here. You've heard of the long arm. Yeah. But seriously though, you created some images there that make both men and women want to read. Want to read.
That's very good. Thank you for sharing.
Feel a little bit better?
No. I mean, it's a lot of discussion. I'm taking it to heart. I'm trying to get it right, but.
Go look at some other.
But you know, it takes time. This is an exercise. This is not for, this is not for a paying gig. This is, it's practice.
Yeah.
After you finish it, where do you send it? Then you send it to all, the newspapers and radio
You
stations?
want to put together a targeted list.
Yeah.
And sit down and think about, okay, who would be interested in it? Because it's not just sending it to a newspaper. They have section editors, feature editors, book reviewers. Yes.
When I taught that 1 year at FAMU years ago, 97 to 98, writer in residence, part of the job was doing publicity for the Essential Theater. Now, it's FAMU Essential Theater, wonderful organization, personal friends of mine, but it is what it is educational theater. Well, educational theater is they give a lot of comps, they already have the funding. In other words, they don't have to struggle as much for the money. That's not my orientation. Okay, my orientation is butts in the seat and let's sell some tickets. So when they gave me a publicity budget, I spent it. Okay, I spent it on TV commercials, on press releases, on print media, on posters, everything. We did an E. Lynn Harris event. I went into every sort of bar I could put it in, gay bars or whatever. I went in everywhere to put this material up. I put it in the bathrooms, okay, above the stalls. When you go to the bathroom, you look at, because guess what? I wanted to sell some tickets, and guess what? When it came time for them to read the actual the reports at the production of Soldier's Play, Mr. Wells actually had to say, well, the paid ticket sales are, what? Because the amount of money they made on that, I'm talking about paid ticket sales, not comps to the students, free tickets to the students, was through the roof. They made that money back many times over. And as far as the publicity thing goes, when it came down to media, I didn't care what I sent it to. I made sure I made personal contacts in the whatever department of the television, print media. I contacted every single station in the area as far as Jacksonville to Pensacola, as far north as possible. I sent stuff to Tampa. I didn't care. I sent it to all the black schools, you know, HBCUs. I sent it to all the white schools, all the theater companies. I sent everything. I sent it to even the organizations that I knew weren't supportive of FAMU, because I wanted them to get out and say, yeah, they're wasting money over to that school right there. We don't need a black school. Because I want them to do that. I want them to talk about the fact that they're doing this particular play at this particular school that you don't believe in. But guess what? It worked.
Well, I think a press release should also be tied to a community event, child abuse. You will have a book about your abuse. This is the time to put it out in the paper that who you are, or June is Bridal Month. You know, if you have a book about a wedding planner who gets caught up in a mystery or whatever, you know, that's the time to put it out there for. If you tie it in, I think you have a better chance of getting it put in the paper if it's tied to something that's actually happening that the community already knows about.
Timing is
Yes,
important,
it's
very important. And we've talked about distribution and targeting who to send the press releases to. And I got one of these articles off of prnewswire.com, and they have a service called iReach. But I didn't want to recommend one per se because I haven't used any of these. But you can check online and ask your friends who do use them for sources on that. Does anyone have any further feedback or questions regarding the exercise today? Have you benefited from it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it.
I'm very aware of my shortcomings.
And how many
And I
of you,
realize this is not my calling, but I learned a lot though.
how many will try one? Will try to write your own press release?
Paying somebody.
As a result?
I will try
I haven't done one in years. I know I did one for my first couple of
Yeah.
books, but I haven't done a press release in years, so it may be time to definitely.
He need to write a book.
Well, we hope you benefited from this, and I'm gonna leave you with this quote. Work your strengths, hire your weaknesses.
Amen.
Work your strengths and hire your weaknesses. That's it right there.